All right. Thanks for joining me on Real Talk NFT, where we talk about all things NFT and Web3 related. As you know, I'm your host, Brian. I got my guy, co-host Joe here. We have a really special guest here today. One of the top blue chip projects on the ETH ecosystem, the owner, the founder, the visionary of Kanpai Pandas. It's Josh, also known as Icebagz on Twitter. Hey, man, thank you for joining us today. Really happy to have you on the pod.
Yeah, happy to be here. Appreciate you having me on.
Hey man, as we know, we were talking about a little bit before we went live here, but I've been hounding you for months to try to get you on the podcast because I'm like the biggest Kanpai Panda fan around. Just been following this project. We actually, my DraftKings days, we were always talking about some things and collaborations, and just love that finally got you on the podcast so our audience can learn more about Kanpai Pandas. I guess we should just start off. Tell me a little bit about your background, how you even got into Web3 and NFTs, because I know you're an entrepreneur at heart, but you got into this wild world of crypto.
Yeah, for sure. Entrepreneur since I was probably 20. I think I started my first business. It really took off at 27 years old. So about 15 years ago. And it was a lot of real estate, property management type stuff. Grew one of the best vacation rental companies in the country. Over a period of time, but look, I'll just tell you this. I kind of back it up a little bit. So I was doing sales prior to that, real estate sales, and I was doing really well. I was making good 6-figure income, and it was going well. Had my wife was pregnant at the time, but I fucking hated sales. I didn't hate sales. I hated real estate sales, and I looked at her one night and I was like, yo, I just don't want to do this anymore. Let's start a property management company. And she was pregnant at the time. We didn't have a whole lot of money, in savings. And she was just like, yeah, let's do it. We sat down that night and drew up a logo on the dining room table. The first year, I think I made $32,000. The second year I made $55,000, and I was working 14-hour days with a pregnant wife. And then at that point, a baby at the house. And so it was just it was a real grind to get it going. And then years 3, 4, 5 and on really started to take off. Right. So it's planting that seed and doing the work. And it's the same thing in Web3. It's the same thing with the NFT project, especially with the pandas. But yeah, so that's a little bit of my background. I've managed, hundreds and hundreds of people, thousands of people probably over my lifetime. I've still got 100 plus that work for me now in other businesses. But yeah, I got into Web3 in 18. I hate the word Web3, by the way. Crypto. I got into crypto in 18 and jumped in it was when the 17 crash happened, right? And it went from 20 to 10 really fast. Yep. And I was all right, I'm going to shove right here because this is where I think the fucking, this is the moneymaker, right? And I shoved 7 figs in and it goes to $3K immediately. And then, what's his name? Arthur Hayes. Arthur Hayes literally turns off the machine, remember? To save us from fucking zero. I'm all right, this is a kind of a wild industry. I'm down massive. I might as well just dive in. So I literally never left. So after that, I went full time in crypto. I was like, fuck this. This is exciting. There's so much innovation going on. It's a gigantic casino at the same time. I love it. You know what I mean? And so I really never left after that point.
You're absolutely built for it though, man. Every time I've talked to you, I know the first time we talked, I was like, this guy gets crypto. He gets Web3. He gets the audience that we're talking to. Even anybody that's listening to this right now, you need to follow his Twitter. It's Icebagz on Twitter with a Z. He calls out people. He has some big opinions, we'll say, but it's spot on. I'm I could relate, a lot of the things you say, I'm on board with, and a lot of things that people would probably be nervous to say, let alone I could see you saying that to someone's face, let alone on Twitter. It just doesn't matter. And I love how you, and it almost feeds into your community too. Your community's that too. No nonsense.
It does. And that's what I love about the Pandas community versus other NFT communities. And I'm not here to shit on anybody, but a lot of it is very kid centric, right? The NFT space in general. It's a lot of it's geared towards kids IPs and all kinds of stuff, and ours is we, I kind of coined the phrase sophisticated degenerate, and that's what we are. Right. And it's like a bunch of adults. It's more, I'll guarantee our average age holder is a little bit older than most projects. And it's like, they've got families and they've got businesses, outside of crypto. But yet they all do the same. We all do the same shit, right? We all like to go, to football games and concerts and party a little bit, in our downtime. It's like work hard, play hard, and that's kind of like the mentality behind the Pandas for sure.
Yeah,
but I'll just say this: they'd probably like me to be a little less vocal, on Twitter sometimes. But at this point, I'm 41 years old. I've had enough success. Like, I don't need to kowtow and tiptoe around, on fucking Twitter. I'm not going to do it.
Man, I can't wait to dive into your social. Maybe that's why I resonated with Kanpai so much right when I clicked on the website and art, because, that's kind of my demographic. I'm in that age bracket. I'm excited to hear about, I love hearing origin stories. I know you didn't come in as original founder. You actually kind of pulled like a Pudgy Penguins, right? You came in and took over the project. But maybe you can tell me a little bit about Kanpai Pandas, like how did that originate? Was that a company before? I know Kanpai is Japanese. It means cheers in Japanese, right? And I see a lot of Asian influence in the clothes. And so, just tell me a little bit about Kanpai and how you got to take over the whole project.
I am culturally appropriating, Joe, and I apologize if that offends you.
No, it's okay. No, definitely.
My wife's Asian, so they can't say shit to me. So here, it's actually a really wild story.
Love it.
So I was helping them. The meta back in what was it? The mint was like April of 21. It was shit bear market, but the meta back then was always honoraries, right? Like you always wanted to have like the biggest names with an honorary and showing it off. So I had helped some of my friends, get honoraries to like 50 of the top, influencers on Twitter, and everything was going great. Me and my boy had actually flown over to Biloxi, Mississippi, and we were sitting in the high limit room, like ready to mint, okay, for the mint. And the reason is they had the casino was going to be day 4 of the Masters, and the casino called us and was like, "Hey, do you guys want to come over here? We're going to take a plane to Augusta and walk the Masters for the final round." And I'm like, "Fuck yes!" We shot over to Biloxi really quick, and we're sitting in the high limits room, like ready to mint. And I had never minted anything, okay, and I'd never been really in a Discord, okay, and the contract breaks at mint.
Oh.
And I go into Discord and I'm like, what the fuck is going on, right? Like, it's like, rug, these guys are scammers. And I'm like, oh my God, like what is going on? So they hit me up. They're like, they're of course they're in panic mode. And it's like, I'm like, here's your options. Just refund the money, and try to do it at a later date once you get everything fixed, or, this, or I was like, and I was way too many drinks in. I was like, I'll just take it over and like give you a cut.
Nice.
And they're like, let's do that. And so I literally leave. I call my pilot at like 11 o'clock at night. And I'm like, we're going back to Destin right now. And so I skip the Masters. Ooh. I stay up all night. I remember I was outside drinking wine by the fire pit, and I hit out on Twitter, and I'm like, I'm taking over this fucking project, and I'm going to make this so successful. Who wants to help me? Because I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing.
Love it.
And Primo from Layer Zero hits me on Telegram like 2 minutes later. And he's the only other guy that's up just 24/7. I don't think the guy sleeps. And he's like, hey, let's do this Omni-chain. Ghostly Ghost had just launched like 2 days prior or 3 days prior, right? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it Omni-chain. And unfortunately, we were the first like paid mint that was Omni-chain. So we minted on 7 different chains originally, and then we just minted the last 1,000 on Solana. So we're on 8 chains. But apparently it's not real easy to mint on Optimism and BSC, and Arbitrum at the time was still not even popping. AVAX, Phantom, like who the fuck mints on Phantom, right? But we minted on all these different chains. So then, of course, as you can imagine, what happens is we mint in USDC, right? Because I'm a business guy. I'm like, I want the locked in funds so that we know like what we're sitting at. Right. And the problem is since it's Omni-chain, you can move over to ETH too, right? So now people are minting, they're moving things over to ETH, and now the floor price is dropping to like 250. So nobody's minting again. It took us 7 months to mint out. Ooh. 7 months. Like nobody would work that mint. Like every other founder, I don't give a fuck. Every successful founder in an NFT project right now would not have done what I did and what we did as a team. I pulled out like $600K out of my own pocket because we didn't have any funds. And I was like, I'm gonna build shit like now. We ended up locking in a suite at the Raiders Allegiant Stadium for 15 years for access for our holders. I had to give away a Bored Ape at Peak, a Doodle at Peak, a Moonbird at Peak, a Macy at Peak. Like, we spent so much money just trying to get. We're like, if you mint 25, you're in the raffle, right? So then people are just minting these things just to win a fucking Bored Ape or some shit. Like, it was a disaster, boys. But the biggest thing is like, it built a really hardcore community because these bastards sat around for 7 months watching this mint, right? Like, they believed in the vision and what we were building. Now, of course, everything has drastically changed since what we started with versus where we are today. But yeah, that's the origin story of the project. It's a pretty wild one.
How many Kanpais have you given away total?
I think there's a website. I think it's maybe icebagz.lol, and the guy tracks the value of the pandas. But it was like, dude, at least I think we're up to like 365, 370. And that was stuff that I purchased personally. This wasn't like out of like, a treasury. This is stuff that I purchased personally.
I mean, you're still doing. I just put my.
I still did. I did one yesterday. Yeah, I've done four in the last week.
I just put everybody who's listening to this. You need to go to Icebagz' Twitter, and you need to put your score prediction for the Super Bowl. I threw my score predictions in for the AFC NFC predictions. I missed on both of them and got hit hard by the books as well. So I didn't do too good, and I didn't win a panda. But if you go to his Twitter, you can put a score prediction, read the instructions, because even going through the comments, like even after people put their predictions in, it seemed like people were messing it up. You have to put like the combination, the winning quarterback yards and the combination of the two quarterbacks. You can win a panda, or you could win $5,000 in the RST token. Tell us a little bit about that token. You took that over, just a month or two ago, right?
Yeah, last month, like pretty much beginning of the year. I had been it was like the first project I've ever really advised on, and I advised on them. I've advised for them for like 2 years, right? And it just went nowhere. It started out as kind of a meme token, then they started building a TCG game. It was one of the first games to go on Epic Game Store that was actually like Web3 based. So they had some success there. And then I partnered up Alex Moody, who owns Seedon Network. He came to me like at sometime in December, and he's like, hey, there's an opportunity to buy Rainy Studios. What do you think? And so him and I talked. He's had a lot of success. He's got a massive team behind him. And I was like, look, there's opportunity there. Obviously, I'm a huge holder. I've got a huge bag of it. Like, fuck it, let's buy it and do something, right? So we did that. Like, he's got like Mike Haller as our head of gaming, who was like one of the guys that started like Akira, several anime shows, WCW, WWE, Def Jam Vendetta, Medal of Honor, which essentially was the team that went on to build Call of Duty. So we've got heavy hitters in there. We've got a huge IP coming out probably within the next 3 weeks that's combat sports related. So we'll drop that in about 3 weeks. But it's going to be very large. And then I'm also talking to one of the top UFC fighters on the planet about building a game for him as well through Rainy Studios. So I think it's going to be the biggest comeback story in the gaming sector for sure, because we have so much reach outside of just the crypto sphere as well, right? Like, we're going to be bringing in like big IP, big names of relevant people that you just don't see very often in crypto.
Calling out some of the big name UFC fighters. I know we've talked about this in the past, but I've seen interviews with John Jones repping the Kanpai Panda hoodie. Absolutely. Oh, actually, speaking of which, hold on. Messed this one up, boys. This I saw Mike Perry wearing this once on like a podcast. I think one of your podcasts, and I was like, I'm buying.
I think it was on Rogan, actually. I think it was on Joe Rogan.
It was a sweet hat, and I was like, I'm getting that hat, so I'm gonna rep the Kanpai for the rest of this thing. But I also saw, so I went to Penn State, and I wrestled in high school and grade school, and I followed Penn State wrestling. And whenever Bo Nickel was on Contender Series, I was like this big Bo Nickel fan. I was like telling everyone, I was like, this guy mauls people. You have no idea what type of mentality this guy has. He wins Contender Series, and my degenerate personality, I buy like a ton of his rookie cards on eBay, and they're like cheap, and I'm just stockpiling them. Now I'm following you on Twitter one day, and I think, was he at your house? And or maybe you guys were like hanging out somewhere?
I was in Miami. I was at Malky Kawa's house. So Malky Kawa owns First Round Management. They're either number one or two of the largest combat sports management companies. So they've got like 200 athletes. They've got John Jones, Bo Nickel, Ilya Tapuria, Mighty Mouse, Kevin Holland, Cannoneer, like on and on and on, right? And then they've also gotten really big into football. He's the one that did the Jonathan Taylor deal where they held out and then he got a huge payday for the Colts.
Oh, yeah.
So that was Malky.
Yeah.
So I was at Malky's house. He's a partner of mine, and he's an advisor and partner in Kanpai Pandas. And we're doing some other stuff together as well. But it was at dinner, and he's like, "Hey, you want to come over to the house?" He's like, "Bo Nickel and Ilya Tapuria are coming over. My mom's cooking." I was like, "Yeah, I'm 100% in."
Yeah, I follow Bo Nickel on Twitter, and his damn profile picture is PFP is a Kanpai Panda.
He's a panda.
Yeah, it's and I'm just like, this is coming full circle in my life. Again, huge Kanpai Panda fan here, and been introducing it to Joe as much as I could. But you're absolutely killing it out there, man, and just love to see like all the success. Again, I can just see how you definitely vibe with your community, and you know how to grow a crypto NFT project better than anybody in the space, in my opinion.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, let me wind it back to the tweet, the Super Bowl tweet, because born and raised San Francisco, haven't won a Super Bowl in 3 decades. So what's your take? Is it Niners? Is it Chiefs? What's your prediction?
Ooh, what's the line on that? Like San Fran slight favorite? Like 2.5, I think is what it opened at. Man. The Chiefs look like shit all season, right? And now all of a sudden in the playoffs, they look like they were just built for this shit, right? Like Mahomes looked so good against Baltimore. I'm going to say this. I'm going to go San Fran based on the fact that I think the public is going to eat the Chiefs up at such a small line. I'm going San Fran. I don't think they've looked as good down the stretch, but I think they're more well-rounded.
Nice. And my next question is this, because I'm definitely buying Kanpai. How do we get into the suite at Allegiant? How does the Kanpais get in on that?
Yeah. So what we did this year was we built a whole ecosystem with points. Oh, okay. And so ours is quite different, right? So you can have we have trait swapping. And so we've got a trait swapping and something called dynamic rarity that we built. And so essentially you can use these points that you get on a daily basis for free to buy traits, to buy that kind of stuff. And then you can upgrade your panda and you can move up and earn more points in a day. So it's like a little bit of a game within a game. Mm-hmm. But we have a raffle section. And that's one of our biggest things is we take revenue from the company and then we put it in the raffle section. So what we did with the suite this year was we raffled off 2 seats every single game with points. Right. So it doesn't cost you anything. You get points daily. Then you have a chance to win tickets to the suite. And then we would sell the rest at face value to the pandas. Nice.
I had a question about just running an NFT company. You running very successful companies. I don't think this is just a labor of love. How's it been? We know royalties have been shut off for a lot of projects. What's success look like for you guys nowadays?
Yeah, I mean it's obviously been tough. Because here's the thing, right? We never saw the mania phase. Pandas have never seen a bull market yet, right? We were born in 21. Pretty much every other major blue chip had a bull market. Built a very loyal following out of that because the prices went so high. We haven't had that yet. And we came in kind of at the tail end of the royalty deal. So I'll guarantee you, in total, we've probably made $400K in royalties, where companies were making that in 2 days, back in the heyday. But what we do is we build businesses out of the company. So if you look at what we are really at first, we were kind of like this experience club, where we threw parties and events and UFC suites and things like that. And we still do a lot of that, but we've really grown into a media company. Mm-hmm. So we've got the Overdogs podcast. It's myself, Mike Perry, and Mac Malley. In the last 90 days, I think we have something like 32 million views and listens across all platforms, nice. Which is massive, right? And we're launching Overdogs Espanol here, I think in the next week or so. Yoel Romero is the host on that. And then we've got a trivia show that's actually kicking off tonight that we're doing live. We've got like 3 or 4 more shows planned. And then we'll be funneling, this is going to build a massive funnel. And we've got stuff that's coming up that we haven't necessarily announced that's gonna really be the money driver there.
Nice. I was just going to echo what you said right there, Josh. I first thing I did was click on your guys' YouTube, and surprisingly, or not surprisingly, now that you've spoken about it, you guys are doing really well in terms of media.
Yeah.
Thousands of views, over 50,000 views per video. That's really, really good. So I'm excited. I'm excited for what you guys are going to do. And you didn't ask this, but I'm just going to say, if there's going to be a Kanpai from the Niners, it's definitely not Brock Purdy. It's probably, it's probably Kittle.
100%.
100%.
Actually, I almost worked out a deal with him to rock the gear. Yeah.
Awesome.
So, but I was like, we'll stay MMA right now, before we branch out, because MMA to me is like the biggest opportunity when it comes to like marketing, especially because the market is usually that 20 to 50-year-old male, right? A lot of them are have money to spend, and it's the 3rd largest sport on the planet, and it's the fastest growing, and it's probably the least marketed and least utilized when it comes to deals and things like that and pay. You know what I mean? Like you got a guy in the NBA making $25 million a year, right, and you got guys in the UFC making $20K a fight.
Yeah,
which is insane.
It caught a ton of steam in the COVID days too, because they were the one league that didn't shut anything down. Dana White was still putting on fights. I was a UFC fan before then, but I started like really looking forward to the UFC fights during COVID because there was nothing other than playing golf, going to my job, and hanging out with my family. I didn't have anything else to do, and I'm a big sports guy, so I really was addicted to UFC. I know my time at DraftKings, we saw a huge surge of just UFC viewership and ownership and entries overall. Rolling back about the pandas, and you were talking about the trait swapping, and I've always thought that was so unique because not a lot of other projects do that. When you upgrade your traits, does your rarity change? Is it always changing? So the number 1 rarity could be the number 5 rarity if somebody kind of bumps. So it's a sliding scale.
So it took us 6 months to plan this, right? To plan out the points ecosystem and the dynamic rarity portion of it. And we're the only ones that I know of on the planet that have this. And so what we did to maintain rarity while also making it like a fun game for people is it's tiered, right? So you've got 1 of 1s, and then you've got infinities, and then you've got aliens, and then you've got zombies, and you've got golds, and then you've got the other 90% of the collection, which are the regular bodies. And so you can't pass another tier. Right. So it helps maintain rarity like on golds and zombies and aliens and things like that. Now they can pass each other in that tier, but the rares are only 10% of the collection. So it gives people in the rest of the 90% collection of what people consider floors, right? It gives them an opportunity to like earn points and work. And then based on aesthetics that they build or based on rarity, they're able to sell them for more. That's what the market does. So it really brings an interesting dynamic, especially for people that don't have the ability to own, rares, right, is it gives them the ability to buy 1 panda, kind of work at it, and then get more value out of it. And then one of the bigger things that we're doing here in the next, I don't know, probably 2 to 3 weeks is we're taking all of the traits and you'll be able to mint them as NFTs. And we're launching it with Tensor on Solana because people have been trading these traits like for 0.5 ETH OTC. But now we're going to mint all of the traits on Solana and they can make money they get the traits for free, right? And then they go and sell them on Solana for whoever wants those specific traits.
There was something you tweeted out. I think it was you. So correct me if I'm wrong. This is maybe weeks ago, and it just caught my eye because I was like, "That's a good idea." Something along the lines of rewarding holders based on rarity. So if you have like a token or any sort of airdrop, possibly like allocating, the better rarity you have, the more of an airdrop you're going to have. And I was like, why is nobody doing that? It just seemed like a really good idea. Maybe it's from a technical side point that might be very difficult, But I always thought that was a really sharp point on your end.
Yeah, I think it is, right. Like you want to reward those people that really have conviction and pay higher prices for rarity, right? And so we're going to do that for sure. We clawed back when Alex and I bought Rainy Studios. We clawed back 50 million team tokens, and so we've already said like we're going to airdrop it to seed and holders and to Kanpai Panda holders, and that will definitely be done in a rarity based structure. And if we happen to launch a token later, it'll definitely be based on a rarity, based structure for sure.
So Joe, for your future Kanpai, rarity matters, my man. So I see a gold panda in your future very soon. They look great.
No,
They're the best. You should take a look at them.
No, the one that I wanted it just got gobbled up off the floor. So yeah, I need to go shopping again.
I mean, here's a good thing, Joe, is you don't necessarily have to just go off of looks, right? Because you can change your panda and you can make it look however you want to. So like we just did a drop with Froggy Cyborg that does like all the panda or the penguin gifs. And he's one of like the most loved, I guess, Web3 artists. And so we had him design a trait pack drop. And so the cool thing about like what we've built too is, let's look ahead like a year or two from now, right? We go to Supreme, we're one of the biggest projects on the planet. And we go to Supreme and we're like, hey, let's collab on a trait drop, right? It doesn't really cost you any money. And now all of a sudden, all of our people are rocking Supreme traits and they're limited and things like that. Like it opens up this whole door of like future collaborations that aren't really possible with other projects.
Now, does it matter if you buy because I know you can't buy the Solana pandas on like Blur or OpenSea with a lot of NFT traders are usually gravitating to those ETH NFTs, but now we've seen such a big push to Solana, and you've been there before even this huge boom over there. Does it matter if you get a Solana NFT, Ethereum NFT, you still have the same access as a holder?
Yeah, they're all exactly the same.
Yeah.
And, just to say this, we launched on Solana when it was like $19 or something, right? And people told me we did a Dutch auction because we already had a floor price of like 1.5 ETH. Right. And now we're adding 1,000 more on Solana, and nothing had ever minted on Solana anywhere near those fucking prices. Right. Like not even close. And all the Solana guys were like, you're crazy. You're never going to get this, blah, 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 blah. But I said, look, I can't hurt my other holders, that have held for a year and a half and drop and just give out like a free mint or a $400 mint when they're worth, several $1,000s. And we ended up minting that out in one day. All 1,000. It was the highest mint to ever go on Solana. But Layer 0 is also going to be building the bridge, I would say, in Q1. So you'll be able to move, from ETH to Solana or Solana to ETH or wherever you want to at that point.
Amazing. I don't have any further questions at this point. I'm just curious, is there a big Kanpai party that I could attend this upcoming year in 2024?
So we just threw, we have one annually called Pandemonium. So the first year we rented the downtown Las Vegas Event Center, which holds like 20,000 people. And we rented that out. We had Dr. Fresh, Dioro, Tyga, Rich the Kid. I know I'm missing a couple of people. I'm sorry. Bijou. We had E-Rock and Romeo, Vegas DJs play. So we did that the first year. The second year, what we did, we rented out Dre's After Hours, one downstairs. So we rented that out and had a couple of DJs play, but we had a bunch of UFC stars that swung through and partied with us as well. I know Aljamain Sterling, Jamal Charles, Mike Perry was there. So it's always a good time. So we do that once a year.
Yeah, so pretty much wrapping up. Just for everybody who's like watching in the audience, I mean, Kanpai Pandas is make your own financial decisions here. I'm wearing a Kanpai Panda hat, so obviously I'm a big fan, and I've been harassing Josh to get on here because I know our audience absolutely is going to love this project. But they're building something bigger, better, and badder than most NFT projects that have been out for 2-3 times the amount of time. And if you even just look at we don't base everything off of floor price, but if you even just look at their floor price, it is like the most beautiful looking chart ever because they're delivering, they listen to their community, and they care about, NFTs and crypto overall. And they're doing stuff that's never been done before. They're one of the first projects to go omni-chain. They're giving away in real life events. They're giving away crazy apparel. And then you have other projects that are sitting on $20-50 million in a treasury, and their price is just down only. So really, when you're evaluating NFT projects, I'd recommend everybody take a deep look at Kanpai Pandas. At the very least, you have to follow my guy Icebagz here, because he drops all sorts of alpha and knowledge on Twitter. Again, it's not for the faint of heart. So if you have some strong opinions, you might want to just keep them to yourselves and just read his. So, Josh, again, appreciate you jumping on, my man. It's been a pleasure, and looking forward to meeting you in person at one of these parties finally.
Yeah, for sure. Let me know. I'll keep you posted on when we throw the next one.
Awesome. Thanks, man.